The $1,000 habit that builds massive wealth. You know that feeling when you look at your bank account and there's money sitting there, like actual money, and instead of feeling good about it, you immediately start thinking about all the ways you could spend it? Maybe it's a new phone because yours has that crack in the corner you've been ignoring for 6 months. Or maybe it's that weekend trip you've been scrolling through on Instagram at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep. Or honestly, maybe it's just the vague sense that money sitting in your checking account is somehow wasted, like it's supposed to be doing something, going somewhere, turning into something else. And here's the weird part. You know intellectually that saving money is good. Everyone knows that. It's like knowing vegetables are healthy or that you should drink more water. But there's this invisible resistance, this friction between knowing what you should do and actually doing it. You'll read articles about compound interest and retirement accounts and building wealth, and you'll nod along thinking, yeah, that makes sense, and then you'll go right back to spending every dollar that comes in, maybe saving a little bit here and there when you remember, but never quite getting ahead in any meaningful way. My name is Ryan, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns for decades. And what I've realized, what I've seen in my own life and in the lives of basically everyone I've ever talked to about money, is that there's this one habit that separates people who build real lasting wealth from people who just don't. And it's not what you think. It's not about making six figures or getting lucky with Bitcoin or having rich parents. It's simpler than that, but also somehow harder. Because what I'm going to tell you today isn't going to sound revolutionary. You might even think you already know it, but I promise you, if you really understand this, like deeply understand it, and if you actually implement it, you'll look back 5 years from now and barely recognize your financial life. You'll have money in ways you don't have money now. You'll have options and breathing room and this quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're genuinely okay, financially speaking. So let me walk you through this because it's going to take a minute to really explain why this works and how to actually do it in a way that doesn't feel like torture. The problem with how we think about saving money. Okay, so here's the thing about saving money. Most people approach it completely backwards, and I don't mean that in a condescending way because I did this for years too. We think about saving as this thing we do with whatever's left over at the end of the month. You get paid, you cover your rent or mortgage, you buy groceries, you put gas in your car, you go out a couple times, you buy whatever random stuff pops up, and then, if there's anything left, you think about maybe moving some money into savings. But here's what actually happens with that approach. There's never anything left. Or if there is, it's like $43, and you think, well, that's not enough to matter, so you just leave it there, or you spend it on something small because what's $43 really going to do for your future? This is the leftover mentality, and it's why most people never build wealth, because our expenses have this magical ability to expand to fill whatever income we have. Economists call this lifestyle inflation, but really it's just human nature. When you have more money available, you find more things to spend it on. Your standards go up. Your definition of necessary gets more flexible. That thing you would have never considered buying last year suddenly feels reasonable now that you're making a bit more money. And look, I'm not saying you're out here being reckless or irresponsible. Most people genuinely feel like they're spending money on reasonable things. It's not like you're blowing your paycheck at the casino or buying designer clothes you can't afford. It's just life. It's the nicer apartment because the old one was kind of depressing. It's eating out more because you're busy and tired and cooking feels like a lot. It's subscriptions that seemed like good ideas when you signed up. It's replacing things that broke or wore out. It's helping out a friend or family member who needs it. It's 1,000 small decisions that all feel totally justified in the moment. But the brutal truth is, if you wait until the end of the month to save, you will never save consistently. You will never build wealth, because there will always be something else to spend money on, and that money will disappear before you even realize it's gone. Enter the $1,000 habit. So what's the alternative? What's this habit I keep talking about? It's this. Every single month, before you do anything else with your money, you move $1,000 into savings or investments. First thing, the day you get paid, or as close to it as possible, that money disappears from your checking account. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore as far as your daily life is concerned. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know because I thought the same thing when someone first explained it to me. You're thinking, Ryan, I don't have an extra $1,000 just lying around every month. If I did, I wouldn't be watching YouTube videos about building wealth. And I hear you, but stay with me here because this is where it gets interesting. The thing about this habit, and this is going to sound almost mystical, but I swear it's real, is that when you commit to it, when you actually do it consistently, your financial life reorganizes itself around it. You find the money, not because you suddenly start making more, though sometimes that happens too, but because you adjust your spending in ways you didn't think were possible. See, when that $1,000 is gone right at the beginning of the month, you can't spend it on other things. It's not a question of willpower or discipline anymore. It's not you trying to resist temptation at the end of the month when you're tired and stressed. The decision is already made. The money is already gone. So now your brain has to figure out how to make everything else work with what's left. And somehow, usually, you do. You figure it out. You make small adjustments. You skip the thing you would have bought without thinking. You find a cheaper alternative. You get a little more creative. You realize some things you thought were essential actually aren't. This is called paying yourself first, and it's probably the single most powerful personal finance principle that exists. It was popularized by books like The Richest Man in Babylon and The Automatic Millionaire, but honestly, wealthy people have been doing this forever. It's just that nobody really explains it properly. They make it sound like a nice idea, a suggestion, when really it should be treated like a non-negotiable law of your financial life. Why $1,000 specifically? Now, you might be wondering why I'm so specific about the $1,000 amount. Why not $500? Why not $2,000? Why not just save as much as you can? And the truth is, there's nothing magical about $1,000 exactly, but there is something important about having a specific, meaningful number. First of all, $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $120,000, and that's before any investment returns or compound interest, just the raw savings alone. For most people, that's life-changing money. That's a down payment on a house. That's a career change fund. That's I can leave a job I hate money. That's real wealth building. But here's the other reason I like $1,000 specifically. It's big enough to matter, but small enough to be achievable for anyone making a decent income. And by decent income, I mean somewhere in the range where you're not struggling to pay for basic necessities. If you're making $30,000 a year in a high cost of living area, then yeah, $1,000 a month probably isn't realistic right now, and that's okay. Maybe you start with $200 or $300 or whatever number makes sense for you. The principle is the same. But if you're making $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year, which is a lot of people watching this, then $1,000 a month is absolutely doable. It might require some lifestyle adjustments, it might mean you can't do everything you're currently doing, but it's doable. And here's what I've noticed. When you set a specific number like this, something psychological happens. It becomes real in your mind. Save more is too vague. Your brain doesn't know what to do with that. But $1,000 on the first of every month, that's concrete. You can plan around it. You can measure it. You know exactly whether you did it or not. There's no ambiguity, no wiggle room for rationalization. The first month is the hardest. Let me tell you what's probably going to happen the first time you try this. You're going to do it. You're going to transfer that $1,000 into savings or your investment account, and immediately you're going to feel this little spike of anxiety, like a physical sensation in your chest. Like suddenly your checking account looks wrong, lower than it should be, lower than you're comfortable with. And then, sometime around the middle of the month, something unexpected is going to come up. Your car needs an oil change, or you have to buy a birthday gift for someone, or there's a wedding you forgot about, or literally anything else. And you're going to look at your checking account and think, oh no, I don't have enough. I shouldn't have saved that $1,000. I need to transfer it back. This is the critical moment. This is where most people fail. They panic, they move the money back, and they tell themselves, okay, I'll try again next month when things are less tight. But next month is never less tight. There's always something. So here's what you have to do. You have to sit with that discomfort. You have to let it be uncomfortable for a minute. And then you have to find another solution. Can you push that oil change back a week? Can you buy a smaller gift? Can you get creative about the wedding expense? Can you, I don't know, pick up a small side gig for a few hours to make up the difference? 9 times out of 10, you can. You'll figure it out. And when you do, when you make it through that first month without touching your savings, something shifts. You prove to yourself that it's possible. You prove that you can live on less than you thought you needed. And the second month becomes easier still. And by month 6 or 7, you won't even think about it anymore. That $1,000 will just be gone from your mental accounting. You'll budget and plan and live your life based on what's left, and it'll feel totally normal. Honestly, it'll feel weird when you think back to how you used to spend that money on things you can't even remember now. The compound effect nobody talks about. Okay, so we've talked about the immediate benefit. You're saving $12,000 a year, which is great. But there's this other effect that happens that's actually even more powerful, and nobody really talks about it. When you pay yourself first consistently, when you watch that savings or investment account grow month after month, it starts to change how you think about money in general. You become more financially aware. You start noticing patterns. You start asking yourself questions about your spending that you never asked before. Like, you'll be about to buy something, doesn't matter what, just some random thing, and you'll pause for a second and think, wait, do I actually want this, or am I just buying it because it's there? And sometimes you'll realize the honest answer is the latter, and you'll just not buy it. Not because you're depriving yourself, not because you can't afford it, but because you genuinely don't want it enough to trade your money for it. This is financial consciousness, and it's incredibly valuable. Most people sleepwalk through their financial lives. They spend money automatically, habitually, without really thinking about it. But when you're paying yourself first, when you're actively building wealth, you start waking up to your money decisions. You start becoming intentional. And here's where it gets really interesting. This consciousness tends to expand into other areas. People who start saving consistently often start earning more too. Not because saving money magically creates income, but because the same mindset that makes you take your finances seriously makes you take your career seriously. You start thinking about raises and promotions and job changes and side hustles in ways you didn't before. You start valuing your time differently. You start seeing opportunities you were blind to before. I've watched this happen over and over again. Someone commits to saving $1,000 a month, and within a year or two, they're making more money too. Almost like the universe is rewarding them for getting their act together. But really, it's just that they've become a different person, someone who takes their financial life seriously, and that person naturally makes different choices. Where does the money actually go? All right, so let's talk practically for a minute. When you take this $1,000 out of your checking account, where should it go? This depends on your situation, but here's a general framework that works for most people. First, if you don't have an emergency fund, like at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up, that should be your first priority. That money should go into a high-yield savings account where it's safe and accessible. I know this isn't exciting, I know you want to invest it and watch it grow, but trust me, having an emergency fund is the foundation of everything else. Without it, you're one unexpected expense away from going into debt or having to liquidate investments at the worst possible time. Once you have your emergency fund solid, then you can start thinking about investing. And for most people, the simplest and most effective approach is just putting money into a diversified index fund in a retirement account, like a 401k or IRA. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, they all make this incredibly easy now. You can set up automatic transfers and the money just goes in every month without you having to think about it. And look, I know investing can feel intimidating if you've never done it before. There's all this jargon and all these options, and everyone on the internet has opinions about what you should buy. But honestly, for most people, a simple target date fund or a total stock market index fund is totally fine. You don't need to be Warren Buffett. You don't need to pick individual stocks or time the market or any of that stuff. You just need to consistently put money into something that has historically grown over long periods of time and then leave it alone. The biggest mistake I see people make is getting paralyzed by trying to find the perfect investment strategy and then doing nothing because they can't decide. Don't do that. Something is better than nothing. Even if you just put the money in a boring savings account earning 4% while you figure out your investment strategy, that's better than spending it on stuff you'll forget about in a week. What if you really can't afford $1,000? Let's address the elephant in the room. Maybe you're watching this thinking, Ryan, this all sounds great, but I genuinely cannot afford to save $1,000 right now. My rent is too high, my student loans are too big, my income is too low, or I'm supporting family members, or I have medical expenses, or. And first of all, I believe you. I'm not here to tell you that everyone in every situation can save $1,000. Some people are in really tight financial situations where every dollar is already accounted for, and suggesting they just magically find an extra $1,000 is insulting and unhelpful. But here's what I will say. Most people have more flexibility than they think they do. Not everyone, but most people. And it's worth really honestly examining your finances to see where you actually stand. Take a month and track every single dollar you spend, and I mean every dollar. The coffee, the apps, the subscriptions you forgot about, the convenience purchases, the meals out, the random Amazon orders, all of it. Don't judge yourself while you're doing this, just observe. Get curious about where your money is actually going. You might be surprised. A lot of people are spending $200, $300, $500 a month on things they don't even remember buying by the end of the month. Things that genuinely don't improve their lives in any meaningful way. And I'm not saying you need to cut out all joy and live like a monk, but maybe, just maybe, there's $1,000 somewhere in there that could be redirected towards your future without actually making you less happy. And if you truly can't get to $1,000, then adjust the number. Make it 500, make it 300, make it 100. The principle is exactly the same. Pay yourself first, make it automatic, and do it consistently. The specific amount is less important than the habit. Because here's the thing, saving $100 a month is $1,200 a year. That's still life-changing over time. That's still building wealth. That's still putting you in a completely different position than you'd be in if you saved nothing. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. The lifestyle adjustment period. I want to be real with you about something. When you start paying yourself first, your life is probably going to change a little bit. Not in huge ways, but in small ways you'll notice. Maybe you can't go out to eat as often as you used to. Maybe you have to be more selective about which streaming services you keep. Maybe you drive your car for another year instead of trading it in. Maybe you take fewer trips, or when you do travel, you stay in the Airbnb instead of the hotel. And for the first few months, this might feel like sacrifice. It might feel like you're depriving yourself, like you're working hard and not getting to enjoy your money. This is normal. This is part of the adjustment period. But here's what happens over time. Those small lifestyle adjustments start feeling normal. You adapt. Humans are incredibly good at adapting. What felt like a downgrade at first just becomes your life, and you stop missing the things you gave up because you realize they weren't actually making you that happy anyway. Meanwhile, that number in your savings or investment account keeps growing, and every time you look at it, you get this little hit of satisfaction. This little reminder that you're doing something right, that you're building something real, that your financial life is moving in the right direction. And eventually, maybe 6 months in, maybe a year in, you reach this point where you wouldn't go back to your old way of living even if you could, because the security, the peace of mind, the sense of progress, that feels better than whatever you were spending the money on before. The snowball that changes everything. Here's what a lot of people don't understand about wealth building until they experience it. It starts slow, and then it gets fast, really fast. In the first year of saving $1,000, you'll have $12,000 saved. That's great, but it doesn't feel like wealth yet. You can't retire on $12,000. You can't buy a house with just that. It's just a nice chunk of money. But keep going. Year 2, you've got $24,000. Year 3, $36,000. Year 5, $60,000. And now, if you've been investing this money, compound returns are starting to kick in. That $60,000 isn't just sitting there, it's growing on its own, making you money while you sleep. By year 10, if you've been consistently putting away $1,000 and investing it in something that averages a 7 to 8% return, which is conservative for stock market index funds over long periods of time, you're not looking at $120,000 anymore. You're looking at something closer to $180,000 or $190,000. That extra $60,000 to $70,000, that's from compound returns. That's your money making money. By year 20, you're well over $500,000. By year 30, you're easily over $1 million, maybe approaching $2 million depending on market performance. This is how normal people become wealthy, not through lottery tickets or crypto schemes or getting lucky, through the boring, unsexy habit of consistently paying themselves first and letting time and compound returns do their work. And the beautiful thing is, once you understand this, once you really internalize it, money stress starts to fade because you know you're on the path. You know that every month you're getting more financially secure. You know that future you is being taken care of. You know that you're making real progress. The freedom you're actually building. Let me tell you what this is really about, because it's not actually about the money, not really. What you're building with this $1,000 a month habit is freedom, options, the ability to say no to things you don't want without worrying about the financial consequences. You're building the freedom to leave a job that makes you miserable, the freedom to take a risk on a career change or starting a business, the freedom to support someone you love when they need help, the freedom to not have to work until you're 75 if you don't want to. You're building the freedom to not have that spike of anxiety every time an unexpected expense comes up, the freedom to not have to check your bank account before buying groceries, the freedom to not have to lie awake at 3 a.m. worrying about how you're going to pay your bills when you're old. This is what wealth actually means, not luxury cars or designer clothes or fancy vacations, though you can have those things too if that's what makes you happy. But real wealth is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're going to be okay, that you've taken care of yourself, that you've built something solid that can't be easily taken away. Starting today. So here's my challenge to you, and I'm being serious about this. Decide right now what your number is. Maybe it's $1,000, maybe it's $500, maybe it's $250. Whatever number you choose, it should be big enough to matter, but realistic enough that you can actually do it. And then, the next time you get paid, the very next time, transfer that money out of your checking account before you do anything else. Make it disappear. Make it unavailable for spending. It's going to feel weird. You might feel a little anxious. That's okay. Sit with it. Don't transfer the money back. Figure out how to make the rest of the month work with what's left. And then do it again next month, and the month after that, and the month after that. Don't make this complicated. Don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect circumstances. Don't tell yourself you'll start after you get that raise or after you pay off that debt or after you move to a cheaper apartment. Start now with whatever you can reasonably do now. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. In 5 years, you're going to be 5 years older no matter what you do. The question is whether you'll be 5 years older with a substantial amount of savings and investments, or 5 years older in the exact same financial position you're in today, maybe even worse. The person you are 5 years from now, the person who has that freedom and security and peace of mind, they're looking back at you right now, hoping you'll make the choice to take care of them, hoping you'll start building the foundation that's going to make their life so much better. So do it. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Make the decision today. Set up the automatic transfer today. Start paying yourself first today. Your future self will thank you, I promise.